Hey, good afternoon, Fargo. Welcome to Talking Town with Jon Adams. I'm in studio, and it is just me today. Well, it's not just me. I happen to think that I'm important enough that you guys might tune in for a little bit anyway. It's a sunny day outside, and I was just listening to the weather report, and it appears that it's going to be even sunnier and hotter for this weekend's match play event. I'm going to do a quick weekend review. And we're going to start with what happened this Saturday. Tragedy struck at the Maple River Golf Course as I went 1-3 in my match play events. That was for the senior event. There's a senior event, and then there's also the regular tournament that happens this weekend. And I've said it before, the seniors out at Maple River, they don't mess around. What's his name? God, I forgot. So these three guys that beat me, they beat me rather well, one guy didn't. But the other three, they beat me pretty handily this weekend. So all my dreams of winning the senior match play championship went out the window. I tried to put up a fight. I thought I had my stuff going into – I won my first match, and so we're off and running. And then Don Nelson was kind enough to thrash me, finishing me off on the 14th hole. And then Blaze Johnson came along. He finished me off on I think, 16. And then just kick in the stomach. I apologize to whoever I was playing on Sunday afternoon. It didn't go so well, so I was out of it by then. But I still had a great time. You know, Maple River is it's a great place to belong, the golf course. A lot of great people out there. You know, I mean, it's a good time, and it feels like family. And so I needed it on the heels of, like I said, my Aunt Louise passed away 2 weeks ago, and her funeral was on Friday. And the interesting thing about funerals is that it's always dreaded getting there, but I have never been in the presence of the Lord or the Spirit of the Lord like we were on Friday. And you know, it seems kind of weird to say, but that was one of the greatest homegoings that I have ever seen in my life. I mean, just you could feel the Spirit of the Lord. And my auntie, bless her soul, if there was anyone that had faith that she was going to heaven, it was her. And she lived a Christian life through her works. Many stories told about her giving, her giving in the community, her working in the community, her adopting children and raising them as her own. And it was different because there was sadness, but it was more celebration for the fact that you knew that she's in heaven now. So rest in peace, Auntie. We're going to miss her, but we also have my Aunt Edith. She's the last of the six sisters to remain, and we're going to love up on her, and she too in her in her life has lived the Christian life. It's difficult because as you get older, this is what happens. People die, you know? And for me, it's like, how do you balance everything? Because the older people in our community, they are like rudders for our ships. You know, they help us steer life. You know, navigate life. And so the unfortunate part is as you lose these old people, as we lose our elders, it gets more difficult to navigate life because you don't have those people that you can call on and ask for advice. And like I told my cousin, I said, well, now you've joined the Widows and Orphans Club. You know, after you don't have both of your parents, I think that's when you really become an adult, because you have to learn how to navigate life without those voices of wisdom to help you move through things. And it's funny because it never changes. You know, right now, you know, my two sons, they're navigating life, and whoever said as kids get older, you know, you kick them out of the house, they go on and do what they do. I feel like I've parented more now since they've gotten out of high school than I ever did in high school, than I ever did when they were young. But that's a part of it. So it was a great homegoing. I salute my cousins and everybody that was involved. And the ladies, the lunch afterward was amazing, and that was served by our family. And I think I would be remiss if I didn't mention the fact that the way that people, particularly our family, rallies around when there has been a death in the family, the people that were serving the meals, the people that prepared it, everyone did a fabulous job. So I just wanted to say that that was something that it'll stick with me. And as I drove home, I had more of a smile than I did that sadness that you typically get, because I got to see a lot of people that I haven't seen in a while. And it wasn't under the greatest circumstances, but seeing people that you haven't seen for a while and catching up and listening to their stories and listening to how their kids are doing, and remembering that you're all family. I come from an absolute outstanding family from top to bottom. I mean, we're not all saints, and we have our issues just like any other family clan does, but just love and support. The Cox family tree is strong, and I love you guys all. And so with that, I want to put that to rest, and we're going to get on with the show. Along those lines, I wanted to talk about community, because a couple things have happened in our community that I think that if we're not vigilant, we could run into a situation where it turns into everybody's just taking care of their own corner of the world. Everybody is just mainly concerned about themselves. And so this week I was looking at our cameras, and I don't know what the guy was doing. He was on our steps, and he kind of leaned over looking in the windows and stuff like that. He didn't have on a UPS thing or Federal Express. I don't know, but it kind of gave me pause. It gave me pause because I didn't hear from any of my neighbors that somebody was creeping around. It was the middle of the day. I mean, it could have been anything, but it brought me to think about, how do we maintain what we have in Fargo? And so it's my contention that Fargo is one of the greatest places in the world to work and live and raise your children. How do we maintain that? And I couldn't help but think about growing up in Minneapolis and the fact that as a young man, I could go on the north side of town and there would be some old guy saying, "Hey, no, we don't roll that way. We don't do those things, young man." And I didn't even know this guy, but we took it upon ourselves to look out for one another. And somewhere along the lines, it's being lost. It's being lost to the fact. Now, I had a young man, young, he was one of the seniors. He was talking about, and we were talking about it, he said, with how crazy people are, I would be afraid to say something to somebody in public, because you don't know, they could have a knife, they could have a gun, you don't know if they're unstable. And I started thinking to myself, have we really come to the point where we're so afraid to do the right thing because of the consequences? Are we so afraid that somebody might harm us that we're just going to turn the other way? Now, that's the type of stuff that you expect to hear in a big city. Oh man, I'm not going to go over there and tell those kids to knock it off. They might get mad and something might happen. And so it's like, well, that's an interesting take. It's an interesting point. How do we deal with these things? How do we navigate taking care of our community and not live in fear of someone might do something? And so for me, I believe this, okay? I love the city of Fargo, and I meant to wear my Black in Fargo Loving It t-shirt, but we had a little work to do, so you guys get the Adams window cleaning polo. But it's my contention that we have to. Just like I feel like the greatest resource that we have in Fargo is our young people. And I think we need to step up and make sure that we're cultivating our culture and what Fargo stands for these young people so that they stick and stay, and so that we have a viable community, and so they have a sense of community pride and not just they're living in Fargo. Big Game James says we're up against the break. When we come back, we're going to talk more about how do we maintain positivity in a positive community. If you want to call in, the phone number is 701-293-9000. Welcome back to Talk of the Town with Jon Adams. I gotta hand it off to Big Game James. Don't sweat the technique, baby. That is a timeless classic, my man. Way to hit it hard on the wheels of steel.
We're trying. We're doing our best with this playlist.
Jeez, how old am I that I said way to hit it on the wheels of steel?
Hey, we talked this morning on Bonnie and Friends about an A side and a B side of a track.
Holy moly.
Yeah, and
Yes.
that was before my time, so I was trying to. I've heard of it, but I never actually used an A or a B side track.
Oh, my friend. Vinyl.
Yeah.
My son and his wife, Kayla, they have a record player. And for Christmas, we bought them albums. So they're in the vinyl, and it's funny the way they talk about it. But, hey, we talk about the good old days. I like to think that we're making the good old days right now, And for me, I still fancy myself. I'm still a very young man. I got a lot of stuff to do before I shuffle off this mortal coil. So, you know, with that, we're going to continue on. So I was talking about how do we keep our community strong. And so I think that it starts with we have to get away from all the rhetoric that's happening in our situation today. So what I mean by that is right now, what is the biggest talking point in our lives? Thank you, sir. And you could take a guess. It's politics. It's politics, and everybody's got an opinion. And people are forming friendships and dissolving friendships based on what's happening on the national stage. And I think it's absolutely ridiculous because politics is fleeting at best, because the people that are in politics, particularly at the federal level, I don't think that they're reducing it down to the human factor. And what I mean by that is I don't think these people are genuinely thinking about the populace in the United States. I just don't. The people that are in leadership now, as opposed and the people that have led in the past, have made very poor decisions on our behalf as citizens. Okay? And we can go all the way back to Reagan, Nixon, Kennedy, Eisenhower, Roosevelt. The United States government, to me, has never, ever been about the people. And I really tried to look and find something that I could hang my hat on and say, you know what? I like the fact that our government is concerned about the citizens. And if you look at it in history and in totality, we are not better than we were in the 50s and 60s. And by that, I mean citizens as a whole. I can tell you that as a black person, I feel like we are way better than we were in the 50s and 60s. Okay? We're not where we want to be, but I'll take my life today over the life that my parents lived any day of the week. But I was thinking about this in the broader sense. What is it that we can't get on the same page and act on our best interest as a collective? You know, why is it so important to identify with one side or the other? Because to me, neither side is genuinely working in your best interest. And we vote in, let's face it, we all vote what's best for us, okay? And so you have some people that are conservatives say that these set of values are great, are what's important to me. And then you have people that are liberals say these set of values are important. But in the end, the people that are championing those causes, in my opinion, aren't looking out for those interests. And I say that because look at all the flip-flopping that you see in politics. You know? I mean, Joe Biden crafted a crime bill that is detrimental to minorities and poor people in our community, even today. If you have limited means, you should be scared of the legislation that Joe Biden crafted. Okay? Some of the things that have come out of his mouth, you should be appalled. Now, the funny thing is he isn't running anymore, but I'm just saying there were people that were staunch supporters. Okay? And my community being one of them. And so when I look at what's happening, I'm like, is this in my best interest? You know, is Kamala in my best interest? And so I have to weigh these things. And typically it's going to fall on the side of what I actually think is going to be best for me and my children, not necessarily my community, because we vote in terms of emotion. Okay, and whether it's business, whether it's family, that's what we do. So then the flip side of that is the alternative is the other side. And so I can find some things about the Republican platform that I would support. But at the same time, overall, I don't feel like they're going to be in my best interest any more than the Democrats. And it's a shame because it didn't used to be that way. You know, there used to be a guy that came on the TV. His name was Walter Cronkite. He was a news anchor. And we would sit down at 6 o'clock and we'd watch Walter, and he would deliver the news, and you would say, okay. And you listen to that, and you knew that this guy was just giving you the facts. And that's why I say when I talk about anything on this show, it's important that I give you the facts, not one way or the other. There's some slant to it, I know, but give you the facts and allow you to make an informed decision. That's what I think I should do in this capacity on the radio. Well, we don't have that anymore. So then the question becomes, what do we do if we know that nationally people aren't acting in our best interests? For me, it's pretty simple. You take care of your corner of the world. You do what you can do in your community to make the world a better place. You know? You hold yourself to a standard that allows people to gravitate and feel positivity and want to move in the direction that you move. And these days, I don't I don't hear a lot of positivity. You know, I rant. You guys know how I feel about the city commission, and I've said it before. It can't be an easy job, but there are some common sense things that I think that our local government is missing the boat on. And we're going to talk a little bit about that next week. But, oh, by the way, in 2 weeks, I'm going to have Dave Pepcorn on my show. He's a city commissioner, and I'll get to ask him some of these questions. And like I said before, it can't be an easy job, but there are some things that I see that just seem like common sense. You know, if we have a homeless population in this community and they're building camps, then we do what other cities have done that have been successful. And that is, you have a place for them to be that doesn't affect commerce, okay? That doesn't affect the everyday traffic of life. That's what most cities do is they have a special designation for that type of activity, like anything. You know, we have parks and we have various things that we have for citizens that are actively participating. We have places for our young people to go. Well, the homeless situation, we need to look at and decide what's best for the city. What's best for businesses. And so those are things that the commission has to address, and they are doing that. I think that they are, well, we're going to talk, that's another show for another day, but getting back to the topic. And the topic is we need to be vigilant. Now more than ever, we need to be vigilant in what we see every day and what we do every day. I think there are a lot of people that are too reckless with their speech, too reckless with their actions, and with little or no consequences. And so the consequence would be, I talk about my mentoring in the schools and mentoring, you know, when I see young people out in public. And the consequence is we should say things that need to be said in our community. We shouldn't worry about it. You know? Now, to me, I feel like as a tax-paying citizen, I have an obligation to take care of our community. I'm not going to walk by and let somebody say something or do something that they shouldn't be doing without saying something. You just can't. You know? It's up to us to take care of our city. It's up to us to do what we need to do to maintain a strong, vibrant community. And I'll tell you what, if we do not get a handle on how we're treating our young people in this community, we could be in for some big problems down the line. We live in a city that has an aging population. You know, we have the tri-college system. We have a resource by which to maintain a vibrant community by getting these students that come here to see that this would be a great place to live, work, and eventually raise a family. So James says we're big game, James. I better use his stage name. I don't want any trouble out of him. He says we're up against a break. When we come back, we're going to talk more about maintaining a strong, vibrant community. This is Jon Adams. Excuse me, if you want to call in, the phone number is 701-293-9000. Welcome back to Talking the Town with Jon Adams. Big Game James, you got to knock it off. I'll sit here and listen to the intro and outro music instead of doing my job. Welcome back to Talk of the Town with Jon Adams. I've been talking about how do we maintain a strong, vibrant community. How do we do the things that need to be done to maintain what we've built in Fargo? And it's my contention that we can't be scared. We can't be scared to address things that we see. Like I said, on my Ring camera also, there were a number of incidents where people were reporting that people were peeking in windows or crossing through their yard and this and that. Now, one thing that's interesting is that when I was young and I had to go to high school, which was a good, 3 miles away, if I missed the bus, I had to walk. And in my walking, sometimes I would take shortcuts between yards, between houses to get to where I needed to be. And I thought, just talking today, and I was just thinking to myself, what happened to the situation where me as a young man could feel comfortable walking between people's houses to get to where I needed to be, and what we have now? We have turned into a society where things that make sense, now we question. So imagine there's a kid walking through your yard trying to get to where he needs to be, and you stop him, and he says, well, I was just cutting through. Are you A, more likely to say, hey, oh, okay, well, continue on your way, or B, be suspicious? I think B is probably going to be the answer for most people. And it's a shame that we live in these times, but it doesn't have to be that way. It doesn't have to be that way because we just need to be vigilant in what we do. We used to have two things that happened in our neighborhood that I can remember being young. And that was, first of all, we had a neighborhood group, okay? And everybody looked out for everybody. It was just amazing the way the community rallied around each other, not only in bad times and good times. The second thing was every year we have a block party. I don't know if that's still a thing. I don't remember. We haven't had a block party in our block for a while, but, those used to be things that used to build the community. Those are the little things. First of all, we're not all in our houses. I know all of my neighbors up and down the block for the most part. I do the wave and smile, and a few we talk as they walk their dogs and whatever. But it's in no way like it used to be. And so, I think now we've become so consumed with our phones and social media that we've gotten out of that communal situation, I'll call it, where you got to know people. You knew their wife, their kids, their dogs, where they work, things like that. Now, if you start asking those questions, people wonder if you're just being nosy. But I think that in Fargo, we still have that hometown feel. We still have that place. I was out at Walmart, and I just giggle every time it happens. The number of people that I smile and nod and wave to that I have no idea who they are. And it makes me giggle because when I was at home this weekend, it wasn't that way. I'm smiling, greeting people, and there were some people that just walked past. There were other people that looked at me like I was an alien. And there were, of course, people that waved or smiled back or gave me the nod or things like that. But, that's what we have in the city of Fargo, is we still have that hometown. Now, the funny thing is the people that live out west would say they never want to come to the big city of Fargo. I have friends that are farmers that are like, I can't stand Fargo. I can't stand West Acres. But then they grew up in a small town. And so for them, they're like, I don't get why anybody would want to live in the big city. Well, opportunity, just the hubbub. It's funny. I call Fargo the big city. Well, times do change. So I want to say a couple more things, and I want to backtrack a little bit because I think it's important to talk about. So I talked earlier in the show about my auntie's homegoing and everything that was great about that. But there is something that I think that that I'm going to address, and that is the residual effect of losing someone in your life, and that is depression. that is the feelings that come with loss. And so I deal with it, and it's, it comes and it goes. And like I told my cousins, all you could do if you've ever lost somebody is when it gets heavy, you have to get someplace and sit down, and you have to deal with it. Okay? But like my auntie said, after that, do it right. Do life, do what you want to do, and do it right. And so, this is just a PSA. If you are struggling with depression or you are struggling with life, get help. There are people out there that are professionals that are trained to help you, and no situation is hopeless. You have to believe that. And so I just wanted to put that out there because it is a struggle. Life is pretty tough these days. It's certainly not easy, but sometimes everyday life can feel daunting and overbearing. I have friends that have lost jobs, and I could not imagine being 59 out in the job market. Besides ageism, you might price yourself out of the market because people see you as too expensive, or you may have too much experience. And so, I have a friend of mine that's been going through that, and hats off to him. He's handled it like a champ. But just life coming at you, you got to recognize that you don't exist in a vacuum, and everybody goes through this, and people come through it on the other side, out of it on the other side much stronger. And so if you're dealing with life's things that come and it's not a positive situation, just know that you can get help, that there is a support network. And I like to say that Fargo is one of the greatest places for support. I think people care in this community in a way that gives me hope. Even with all the knuckleheads that I deal with on a daily basis, I still think that Fargo it's a great place to live, but we're starting to have some problems that feel big city. And we can't sit back. We cannot sit back and think that they're just going to magically go away. And the biggest thing we can do is be involved in our community. Be involved in the lives of these young people that are coming up. Okay? Be involved in, one of the things that I like is I like when I go visit my in-laws, because from time to time they tell stories. They talk about when they grew up in Fargo and their life in Fargo. And I don't care if you ever get a chance to just sit and listen to our elders talk, take it. Take it. It is a fantastic thing. But that's what it takes. It takes us being involved on all levels, and above all, we need to recognize what we're doing in the system that is politics. And there's so much divisiveness. It used to be, people used to run, believe it or not, they used to run on their platform. They used to run on what they thought they could get done to make our city or our country great. They used to have ideas about how they could make our country better, what they could bring to the table so that we have the best possible United States that we have. And it seems to me that now politics has turned into a bunch of sensationalism, much like our society. By the way, the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, 6 months ago, it was a hot topic. Now, they're working on a ceasefire, which I'm wondering why it's taking so long. But there's a whole nation out there on both sides that are suffering, and that's not talked about. We see a bunch of protests outside the DNC, and it's like, what happened? What happened to our concern for human life in that region? It seems like we're falling on these sound bites, people, where it's the latest topic to talk about, then it goes away, but we can't live that way. For the majority of us, it's a situation where we want to raise our kids, put some money in the bank, take our wives or our girlfriends out to dinner, take a vacation, and plan for the future. That in itself is a big task, right? But then we have the other side where we're bombarded by, hey, you shouldn't support this person because they're evil, or you shouldn't support this person because they don't have your best interests in mind. And I find it laughable that there are people in our society that are telling me, as a grown man with a full functioning brain, how I should feel about one person or another. Well, I got to tell you, the test is just in what have they done before. You know, when I look at people, I look at what is their past behavior. And so when I look at political candidates, I look at what have they done. For me, it's all about people. And so I look at what have they done to show me that they genuinely can care about everyday people. And so we can always find negatives about these people. We can always find things that they haven't done. So I choose to focus on what have they done to move the needle forward for the average person. Because the United States isn't built on a huge middle class anymore. Okay, the middle class is dwindling. Okay? So 70% of the United States is in the hurt bag. And so for me, when I vote, I'm going to look at who's going to be best for the majority of the United States. Okay? Who's going to be best? And also I look at who's going to move us forward so that everyone benefits, not just this group or that group. James, did you just tell me we're up against the break, sir?
Yes, sir.
Oh, I was in my bag. So
yeah, I got to interrupt the flow. That's what I'm good for.
Yeah, well, I was on a roll. So when we come back, we're going to wrap up the show. We're going to talk a little bit more about positivity in the community and how to move the needle forward. This is Jon Adams. If you want to call in, the phone number 701-293-9000. Welcome back to the final segment of Talk of the Town with Jon Adams. Big Game James and I were talking Viking football, and you know, my hopes are quickly being dashed on the rocks of injury with this team, and I'm just hoping to have good games. I put the Vikings on 9 wins this season before the season started. I'm gonna stick with that just because I think that KOC is a good coach. Despite what Tua says, I think that Brian Flores is an excellent defensive coordinator. I don't know if he was cut out to be a head coach, but that speaks to the softness of the athletes in our generation, the people that we watch that are afraid to be hard coached, as I like to put it. But that's another show. I think maybe next week we'll do a football preview if I don't have too much to talk about. But I'm going to put a fine bow on this show, and that is talking about how do we maintain positivity within our community, within our young people. At the top of the list, this is one thing that bothers me about the city commission, is in everything they do, I look at what are we doing to really make sure that our students, our young people are on solid footing, okay? And I've talked to some college seniors that have graduated recently, and despite our low unemployment rate, one of the things that's happening is they don't see Fargo as a viable place to settle down. And when I ask them, they say, it's like an older city. If you're in your 30s and 40s, it's a great place because there's stuff to do if you're in that age. But, if you're a kid coming out of college now, there's not much in the way of stuff to do that they want to do. And I'm like, well, dude, I think there's more bars and restaurants per capita than there is in the United States. And I don't know how you couldn't have fun living in Fargo. Fargo was less of a town than it was when I was in college, and we seemed to get along just fine with the 3 main bars we had. But this is the thing. I want the city to be more focused on our young people. Now, hats off to them. They understand that we need to retain, and they're doing things in the area of work-based learning that we're starting to grab these young people in high school and in middle school, and we're starting to get them to think again, be career-oriented in the right way. It used to be they'd say, well, you got to go to college. No, you don't. No, you don't. You got to do what interests you and that you have a passion for. And if that's not college, then you don't go. You don't waste money trying to figure it out. I'm always amazed when people say, well, my son is taking a gap year. And it's like, from what I've learned in education, go straight through. I don't ever remember, a gap year. But it's like, Fargo, we need to pay attention. We need to have places that are vibrant where our young people feel like they belong. Whether it's a club, a park, some type of facility that caters to these college students. And I don't know what it is. Listen, I got a lot of suggestions, as you guys know, but I don't have all the answers despite what people might think. But I like to put it out there, I see a lot of people, like the last time I went to the mall, a lot of young people at the mall. And there were people that were, they had an issue with these kids. Where else are they going to be? We're building this big sports complex, but where can the average student go that's not sports minded? The arts. That's one thing. We had the Fargo Theater for a long time, and to tell you how out of touch I am, I don't even know if there's a Fargo Theater anymore. I don't even know, do we even have a Fargo Symphony Orchestra anymore? But these are the things. We need to give people well-rounded choices, not just the fair. And don't get me wrong, I love the fair. The races, I'm fascinated by people that love the races. And if you go to the races at the Speedway, please call in. I've never been to one. It is what it is. But anyway, the overall theme of today is we need to be vigilant and we need to pay attention to our community. We need to get off of this. I need to be one thing or the other. We need to look out for all of our interests. That's how we maintain a strong, vibrant community. I want to thank you guys for tuning in. And on the back end of this, I want to say congratulations to Lynn Brandenberger and April Barker. They won the match play championships this weekend. And as a true Viking fan, I'll say, well, there's always next year. And with that, I hope you guys have a great week. It sounds like tomorrow there's going to be a little rain, but the rest of the weekend is going to be sweltering. You guys take it easy. Have a great week. And as always, stay black.